Hey guys, this is Courtney from Cosmic Clarity Astrology, and today I'm here to talk to you about the full moon in Cancer on January 13th at 23, basically 24 degrees. So, what's interesting about this full moon in Cancer is that it's conjunct Mars retrograde. So, there is something innately tying us to the past because of the fact that this full moon is next to a retrograde planet. Mars moving retrograde does bring up stuff from the past, in particular associated with work or with projects, but this is definitely going to be associated with things that are family related and emotionally related, or just tied to our past circumstances that bring up emotions within us. So, for some people, this could be in an obvious way. You could have certain family issues come to the surface again, or dynamics and things kind of reoccurring that have been in your family line or in your family history for a while. And it's likely to feel like a triggering full moon because it is making a square to Uranus, sorry, a square to Chiron in Aries, which you can see here. And really, what I think this full moon is about is us trying to come into a place of letting something go from our past. I think that there is something that we are outgrowing that we may have inherited. And this could be on that very public and external scale where we're having, again, those dynamics with people that are reverberating from family dynamics from the past. Or it could be something very subtle where we are realizing that we've inherited certain belief systems or certain emotional ties to something or certain habits, or just something that is kind of framed through the perspective of our past and things that we have, again, kind of been given and passed down without maybe even our awareness. There's something about this that it's like we get passed down something, or we carry something from our family line or from our past, and we might not realize that it might feel initially like a gift, I guess, when we're getting it. Like, here's this belief to protect you, or here's this way of thinking about life, or here's how you should go about something. And we might, again, initially perceive it as something helpful for us. But I think during this full moon, we will start to see the truth behind something and how it's affected us. And we will start to see maybe the unspoken expectations and baggage tied to those things that we have inherited or initially taken in as our own happily. And then we kind of realize that it's no longer working for us. So we outgrow it. So again, I feel like this is going to be a little bit uncomfortable with the square to Chiron and Aries, because Aries, where Chiron is all about individuation. It's about independence and separation and going off on your own. Whereas Cancer, as a sign, is often concerned with enmeshment or some degree of dependence and reliance. So there is an inherent difference here between these signs that we are confronted with at this time. We might notice how we are dependent on something from our past, again, something that we have kind of likely somehow inherited from other people. And it doesn't just have to be your family, but there's something that we've maybe been emotionally dependent on, or we've been kind of habitually coming back to, or again, some kind of influence from the people around us, from our family or from even close friends. There's something going on here that we've kind of tied ourselves to maybe initially in a way that benefited us, and now it no longer is. And now it's time to break free from that enmeshment or that dependence on whatever that is, and respect ourselves as individuals. So there's something, again, that I feel like we are walking away from. And this is especially true because Mars is in an opposition with Pluto. Mars opposite Pluto can bring up quite a bit of fears and survival instincts as a result of making this decision. So you might decide to, cut out a habit of scrolling on your phone a lot, for example, something really basic. But that can bring out anxiety or fears. What do I do with my time? Or, maybe I have this addiction to it. I'm thinking about it, I'm ruminating on it. Whatever that causes, there can be basically some kind of void where you feel the craving or the dependence in that void when that thing is missing from your life. And that can draw out some of these survival instincts with Mars opposite Pluto, some of these fears. I personally am experiencing this by having a ton of nightmares this week. I had an ex tell me once that your nightmares come when you are overheated at night. So I definitely think that's a thing. I noticed that as well. But I also think Mars opposite Pluto is partially causing these nightmares. The fears of what could happen as a result of not having these comforts kind of near us. So there's something in our life where, again, tradition has played a large role. Precedence has played a large role. Repetition, always doing something that way, always having that thing in our life, always relying on that thing, and we are breaking free from it. It is going to be an uncomfortable process and deeply psychological, and a lot is going to be revealed underneath the surface. With Mars opposite Pluto, there's usually some hidden factors at play, and I feel like this is really tied to the Capricorn new moon that we had recently. So definitely check that video out if you haven't seen it. But Mars was also opposite Pluto then, and I feel like the kind of things that we've been digging up in our own psyche in these last few weeks are finally able to be maybe purged or addressed or faced or kind of undone in our life in some type of way. And I think that's going to help us a lot. Whatever it is that you're outgrowing, that you're letting go of right now, is something that has been really tying up your energy. It's been maybe distracting your mind or keeping you really kind of on alert on a physical level. Maybe it's been leading to some kind of exhaustion because maybe you have doubt or anxiety around yourself or this year ahead that is going to probably be kind of intense. Whatever it is, there's something here where I feel like you guys have been overburdened by something, and we're coming into a phase now of realizing that we can set that down. We don't have to keep picking it up. We don't have to keep hurting ourselves with these same things that we're coming back to with these dependencies. And from that place, it's actually going to help you engage more in your life, take more of an active role in your life. And I think that the sun in Capricorn is going to really thrive off of this to create some kind of constructive new beginning for ourselves, or to work on things that we maybe have put off to the side. So there's something here about gaining our energy back, our vitality back as a result of letting go of this thing that we've been dependent on in some kind of fashion. This could also cause some kind of disruption to relationships potentially. Mars opposite Pluto can always have an effect like that. And we also have Venus and Saturn together. So it is a potential that relationships require a little bit more work or a little bit more self-awareness and analysis, because Pluto is very psychological. So it is calling us to be aware of what we're bringing to the table and how we're affecting the people in our lives. So this dependency could extend beyond you and could affect your circle, your relationships, the way that you kind of go about interacting with people. And so I think it will be very helpful to kind of reflect on all aspects of the decisions that you're making right now, what you're walking away from, and where essentially like your why, or where that decision is coming from, because I think that will help you in managing your relationships. If you know if you have greater self-awareness and you understand kind of more of the shadow around why this dependency was here to begin with, or what role it played in your life, it will aid you in moving through your relationships in a healthier way. So ultimately, I feel like this is a very healing time, although it can initially feel quite emotional and maybe even triggering. A Cancer full moon is already innately emotional as a water sign. And again, because it's so deeply connected to our history, there is something that can be a little bit triggering about that, especially with that square to Chiron. So just kind of be aware that tensions could be somewhat running high. But with Neptune on the North Node, there is a call towards greater peace and greater healing. So whatever it is that we're walking away from, it's something that's going to bring more peace into our life, which will in turn give us more energy to move forward. So let's go ahead and look at what this is going to be like for all of the signs. Make sure that you check that out down below. I will have all the time codes listed there, and I'll see you guys there. All right, up first we have Aries rising and sun. So this Cancer full moon happening in your 4th house is definitely highlighting elements from our past, because it is conjunct Mars retrograde As an Aries, Mars is your planetary ruler. So when it's moving retrograde, it is definitely a time for deeper introspection, especially when it's in the fourth house. So this full month of January is a time for you guys to be doing a deep dive into your innermost world and to start kind of piecing things apart and maybe asking really important questions. There may be times where you can't really trust how you feel about something. You might have a very certain emotional reaction. As an Aries, there is a very kind of intuitive and direct, unfiltered way of reacting that is often very quick. And you have a gut instinct that is usually pretty keen and right about things. However, with Mars being retrograde on this Cancer full moon, I think that you guys are coming into a phase of questioning those reactions, questioning those perceptions, those emotions, and starting to look again behind the surface a little bit deeper. Because I think that there are things that you can't necessarily trust. There are things that you have inherited from your family, from past events that have left scars and residue on you that are influencing your perception and emotional reaction to certain things in your life. And January is your time to start digging beneath the surface and unveiling what those, I guess, different lenses are, those different filters are that you have naturally kind of started to take upon yourself. And this is important because with Chiron squaring this full moon and Chiron also being in your first house, it's almost like you are seeing yourself for the first time in a new way. So it's like having, like, for example, if you were colorblind your whole life and you had, I don't know, red hair and maybe you couldn't see red, it was like as if somebody finally gave you glasses to see all of the colors on the spectrum and to be able to see your red hair. And from that point, you start to see yourself differently. So there's some kind of healing around your self-concept, who you are, what you believe, and what you believe about yourself especially, that is going to go through a metamorphosis during this time. And I think that you guys are coming into a phase of really seeing how maybe certain wounds could have prevented you from trusting the universe, from opening up. Maybe there have been certain things that have made you feel like you need to protect yourself, which is a very common Aries theme, be defensive in some kind of way, keep people at a distance, separate, from something somehow, or, win something to make sure that you're safe because you're the one in power and control. So these are certain themes that could come up right now. With Mars opposite Pluto, there are, again, kind of secrets or truths that are being revealed around yourself and your own behavior that you might realize that you're not wanting to invest in anymore. You're wanting to feel different and to trust more. With so many planets lined up, especially Neptune and the North Node together, all in Pisces in your 12th, this is a call to establish a deeper inner knowing. Because again, I think that there's something here where you might not, you might think that things are one way within your inner world, but they're actually another. And I think you're coming into a time of greater trust and flow with the universe. And again, maybe feeling a little bit less jaded, or maybe jaded is not the right word, but like a less protective of oneself as you're starting to analyze the things that you've inherited on an emotional level. So I hope that makes sense for you, Aries. I'd really be curious what will happen for you. I mean, on a more physical level, I think that there can be issues that come up within our home life or our home and how that affects our career. This is a full moon, which means that the sun is in your career house, the moon is in your home house. So there can be things that light up this internal opposition within ourselves of, where are we putting energy and focus? There could be stuff that arises in either area, especially relationally. But ultimately, I think it's more so about you kind of learning how to, see, I guess, where to put more trust and more faith. And there are certain emotions and experiences and perceptions that I think you're going to take that faith away from and place it into a different area of your life, more into spirit, more into the universe, and things of that nature. So again, I hope that makes sense. If so, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to also give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, I'm going to say of Taurus rising and sun. This Cancer full moon is happening in your third house, and it is going to be making a square to Chiron in your 12th house. So what do I have to say about this? First of all, this is a more impactful full moon for you guys because your planetary ruler Venus is conjunct Saturn. So you're going to be feeling a lot more of this kind of heavyweight energy that Saturn actually brings to the table. There is, I feel like, a steadying force and a healing force that can come from this full moon for you guys as a result of Saturn helping you kind of sober up and realize the long-term effects of something. This full moon for everybody is about realizing the kind of baggage that we've inherited and just things that we've been dependent on or things that we've been involved in our life that are really a part of old patterning or old versions of ourselves that we are clearly outgrowing. For you, this is very much about your mindset and, especially because this is in the third house, and your sense of movement. And I pulled this shapeshifter card for you guys. So there's something here about this energy that I feel like is calling out your potential to be maybe a little bit ungrounded in certain things. I think that there are certain commitments or relationships or just anything really that you've been a part of that you have maybe left in your life or that you have left unfinished, that you have kind of not fully seen through to your fullest capacity, that you have not done your best with. And for some of you, if this is talking about relationships, there are potential, it's a potential for you to have been seeking maybe certain partners that are non-committal or involving yourself in something that doesn't have longevity, that doesn't have stability or certainty. So there's something about this where you guys have been perpetuating some kind of cycle with this, Mars retrograde, where you are in this emotional pattern where you're kind of dependent on getting engaged with something that's interesting, but that you're not really, that in your heart that you're not going to see through till the end. And then with this being a third house, you change your mind, you move on to something new, you stay really busy. There's a sense of like fluctuation, impermanence. And with your planetary ruler Venus with Saturn, there's a desire to create more longevity from a place of intuitive certainty, because this is Venus is in Pisces, which is often about impermanence in itself, but not really with Saturn there. Instead, Saturn and Venus and Pisces together create a sense of solid ground coming from a place of being very intuitively guided towards something. So I see you coming more into a place of self-love as a result of this full moon, understanding yourself more and coming back into balance with yourself more, where if you have been kind of like protecting yourself or shielding yourself from doing something that is like investing in something that could let you down if you went all in on it, or could not work out, for example, I see you doing the work around that with this square to Chiron in the 12th, recognizing where you maybe have kind of sabotaged certain elements of your life by not taking the necessary risks in some type of area, and where you may have been imbalanced or impatient or like not jumping at the first thing that feels good, for example, rather than truly vetting out what that thing is, or moving on to something new very quickly because it's exciting rather than staying through the hard stuff of the messy middle of something that you're invested in. So I feel like that's what this full moon is trying to talk about. It's illustrating some kind of mental pattern and a pattern around movement and change that I think that you guys have inherited somehow from your past, from your family, from wherever. And it has been a source of kind of emotional like stuckness where you're able to be dependent on this cycle and not elevate your life in some kind of way. So I feel like it's almost like been an excuse for you. And I think you're going to start to realize with Mars opposite Pluto how much more you're capable of and how much more you want and desire for yourself. And I think that's going to shift in many ways your value system to think more long term and to come into a more balanced place within yourself. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Taurus. If that resonates, I would really love to hear from you in the comments down below. Don't forget to also give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my email list, subscribe to my YouTube channel. My email list is always in my description box down below. Also, don't forget to comment so I can also know what's going on in your life. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, next we have Gemini rising and sun. This Cancer full moon on January 13th is taking place in your second house of finances, self-worth, and independence. And it is conjunct Mars retrograde, which if you haven't watched the overview, I talk about Mars retrograding really being about something that we have inherited, something that we are dependent on that has created some kind of limitation in our life. For you, with this being in the area of the second house, there's something in your life that is wrapped up around your sense of value, your idea of even time, your idea around independence and kind of self-reliance, your priorities, your finances. Those areas of your life, there are going to be some further questioning happening. So for example, there is something in your life that I feel like you are being called to go on an adventure towards. Jupiter is in your sign, and we are coming into a phase with Jupiter being in Gemini where, you know, Saturn is coming out of this square with Jupiter, and we're finally going to be coming into a phase of growth, which is not inhibited by Saturn's influence as Geminis. And so this is giving us the leeway to take certain risks and make certain decisions that could feel a little bit scary and uncomfortable. With this full moon in your second house, there's this feeling of relying again on kind of on the safety of things and on what is known so that we don't have to take certain risks. So this full moon is highlighting a dependency or a desire for safety and how you are a dependency on finances, on stability, on, you know, having, you know, everything taken care of yourself, having your walls up or having your money in the bank. There's something about this full moon that's calling you to take a risk, to move out of, you know, the desire or the dependency on what is known, because Jupiter calls for the new, for an adventure. And it is going to ask you to kind of deconstruct something in your life that you have built up as a source of security and self-reliance. And the question I think has really been, is now the time? Is now the time? Is now the time? Because Saturn with squaring Jupiter can make us feel like we are meant to move forward, but then we're also kind of blocked. But again, we're starting to come out of that energy. I think there is going to be one more square in 2025, but we're mostly coming out of the energy of Saturn squaring Jupiter while in Gemini. And so this is our phase of uninhibited growth. And in order to do that, you have to take some kind of leap of faith and trust that you are going to be able to catch yourself. But there could be sometimes this self-doubt that creeps in. And this is, again, from some kind of past circumstance. And this is because, again, Mars being retrograde, we could have had certain values and priorities, certain ideas of autonomy, certain financial ideas put into place because of difficult circumstances, or because of what our family taught us, or because of past emotional experiences that led us to create this kind of security for ourselves, or these walls, or these protection mechanisms. And we have to kind of go back and realize how that worked for us at the time. And now it's important to take that down and start to rebuild yourself in a new way. Rely on like building up a new sense of confidence. So let me give an example. Let's say you have, you were really hurt by something growing up in a relationship, and then you kind of became scared to move quickly within relationships. Maybe you meet a person right now and it's time to trust that you know how to take care of yourself, and not just enact an old programming of putting up your walls and making everything take a really long time and, creating a lot of space. There's something here around needing to kind of, again, remove the old programming so that you can believe that you are able to take care of yourself now in this phase of your life, and that you can take some kind of leap of faith and have courage and conviction and confidence around yourself moving forward. That means confronting certain fears. And I think in many ways, especially with your planetary ruler in Capricorn right now, I think we're meant to dismantle those fears from a more grounded and logical perspective. So it's important to, of course, feel our feelings, but it's also important to look at the emotions through a critical lens sometimes, because a lot of the emotional baggage that we inherit from past experiences or from our family ultimately become outdated. And we have to trust that we can look at those through new eyes and start to, maybe trust isn't the right word, but we have to look at those through new eyes and start to kind of question, is this feeling, or is this like perspective around how I'm interpreting my feelings, is that actually accurate? Or is this based off of old programming? So I feel like this full moon for you guys is about reducing the programming, realizing that divine timing is now in order. Things are starting to flow. Of course, Mars is retrograde, so don't actually take all of these new steps. Like, don't act on something entirely new right now. But the green lights are starting to come, and you have to trust that you can do this, that you can rely on yourself, and that many of us are going to have to potentially overcome fear around scarcity, fear around not having enough, or not being able to accomplish what you're looking for, not being confident enough, not having enough money, or resilience for whatever this is. So all of that is going to be confronted with this full moon squaring Chiron in your 11th house. We're going to have to be able to look at the future with optimistic eyes, which means that we have to heal the jadedness of the past in order to believe in the goodness of the future and what we can actually accomplish. And the changes that we're being asked to make, these tower moments that we're meant to be having in our lives, the things that we're meant to leave or to enter into. I don't even know where I was going with that, but I hope that does make sense. We're leaving old programming. We're making really big changes right now, and we're having to confront the fears around that, especially around kind of scarcity or emotionally opening up to people. So that's what I'm saying for you, Gemini. If that makes sense for you, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Please do subscribe to my channel and my email list, which I will link in my description box. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Subscribe, comment down below, and have a great day. Thanks. Bye. All right. I'm going to say of Cancer rising and sun. This full moon in Cancer is happening on January 13th in your first house. And it is conjunct Mars retrograde in your sign. So this is a big deal because Mars is going to be retrograding for all of January and for most of February. And it's really bringing up all of the Cancer's baggage. I mean, everyone has Cancer in their charts. So we're all going to have some experience of this. Obviously, this is going to be a lot more personal for you guys. What I feel like is Cancer is about is a lot around like neediness and dependency. So any kind of tendencies that you guys might have around that, as well as moodiness, is going to be highlighted now. So ultimately, I feel like this full moon being conjunct Mars retrograde and Mars being opposite Pluto, it's about uncovering certain baggage that we have carried forth with us from, previous generations, from our family, certain things that we have become, I guess, dependent on or kind of stuck in a cycle with, that we are ready to move past. We are outgrowing it. It's becoming old, and we are now becoming more self-aware and realizing that that thing or that pattern or behavior is no longer serving us. For you guys, I think this could be around your Cancer properties. Where am I being overly sensitive or moody around something? Where am I being maybe a needy or dependent on someone or something? Where have I maybe been a little bit, I guess, like out of balance within myself, and then had that become a projection within a relationship, especially with the sun being the 7th house. So a lot of this is going to be a deep self-analysis on your emotional and your internal world and how you show up to certain relationships, and asking yourself if that's really what you want things to look like. Really, it's asking yourself, how am I contributing to a sense of disconnect with the people that I love? With Mars on this moon, there can be a lot of emotions that come up, of things that are quite triggering, especially with the square to Chiron in your 10th house. There can be things that come up from people at work, or from expectations of society, or from our expectations that we put on ourselves and our timeline of our life. And we can start to feel a little bit more sensitive that we're not living up to certain standards. And it could be, again, a little bit more of a triggering and emotional time as a result of that, and people's overall interactions with one another. With Mars opposite Pluto, there's a little bit more of a dramatic kind of thing going on, where people can be fighting for a semblance of power. I really think it's more so to fight for a protection of one's ego and one's sensitive inner child and emotional self. And I feel like you guys are going to be coming into this realization of how you participate in that as well. And that could be even not from a personal stance of you guys enacting that emotionally, but it could even be from the kinds of people that you're interacting with, or choosing to surround yourself with, or even just things that you think about. Old kind of habits that come up in relationships can bring about a little bit of that level of enmeshment, neediness, toxicity, dependence, moodiness, like I've been mentioning. All those things I think are kind of the main themes coming up here. One of the things you have to be careful of is with Cancer is this sense of being a little bit, how do I say this? Cancer it can be subjective. So we want to be careful. What I've been telling the groups is that we can't always trust our feelings. You might have strong feelings about something, but they're coming from likely some type of an inherited place, or from something from the past. And we're meant to be evolving past that. We're outgrowing that. So ask yourself if that same emotional pattern should stick right now, or if there's a different way that you can go about it. I think that there's also a desire to come into deeper intimacy with oneself and with others. So the definition and the scope of what intimacy is could undergo a change as a result of this full moon. You might realize that before you thought intimacy was, I don't know, having sex with somebody or sharing a secret with them. And then as a result of this full moon, you can start to see where actually there were still walls up in this way, or that was done in a manipulative way, and that wasn't true intimacy, or whatever it is. It's going to be individual. But the idea here is that we're going to be letting our guard down and feeling more deeply, connecting more deeply to ourselves and others. I also think that there's some kind of chance that many of us are being called to kind of take in life. And with Mars on your moon, there's something that I feel like you guys Yeah, there's some kind of like adventure or something that you guys are being called to go on. With this square to Chiron on the 10th, there could be fears and inhibitions that come up around this kind of development, this next phase of your life that you are being called to advance into. And this could be career wise or just like a life goal in any type of way. But I feel like you guys can do this. I mean, obviously, we'll want to wait until Mars is no longer retrograde, which is at the end of February. But this is a time for processing kind of what emotionally stands in the way of you taking certain risks for yourself and believing also in your power of autonomy. With Chiron being in Aries, Aries is like somebody who works for themselves, the entrepreneur, the person who leads their own life. They make their own schedule, they decide what they do, and they have people who work under them. So there's something about that where you guys are being called a little bit more into your phase of a leader and owning a little bit more of something in your life or some direction in your life. And I think it's going to bring up a little bit of fear as a result of doing this. You know, who is this going to impact? What are going to be the results of this? And this full moon is going to help you work through all those emotions tied to that. And so don't buy into the emotions, question them, analyze them, and come to a higher understanding of what they're trying to tell you or help you work through. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Cancer. If that resonates, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Please also don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel and my email list, which I will link in my description box down below. And I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Leo rising and sun. This Cancer full moon on January 13th is taking place in your 12th house, and it is conjunct Mars retrograding also in Cancer. So this is a time in which our past is going to come up because it's in the 12th house for you and it's Mars retrograde. And it's also linked with Cancer, which is a tie to past emotional events and often things that are related to our family history as well. So there's something going on here for you guys where I feel like you might be in a phase of your life that this full moon is really illuminating, where you might feel a lack of clarity around something in your life. You could feel like there's something that you are wanting solid ground with, that you are wanting a manifestation to come forward or a sense of direction and something to sink your claws into. But it might feel like things keep evading you. Things keep just changing, or they are elusive, or they are not progressing in certain ways. And this full moon is meant to bring up the fears that we have when we are going through phases of transition and of uncertainty. And in particular, a Cancer full moon, and this one in particular, is definitely going to be about the kind of things that we become dependent on and reliant on to get us through these hard times or these times of confusion and kind of like feeling that we are in a desert looking for water. So sometimes people can turn to different substances or outlets that are not that healthy. And this full moon can illustrate if there is any other kind of attachment to something as a coping mechanism. This full moon is meant to help you kind of dig up all the feelings associated with wanting to maybe just settle down, settle for something. Because what happens when we're in a drought is that we will experience moments of often even existential or survival kind of crisis, which we can see definitely with Mars opposite Pluto, this kind of crisis energy around emotions as well, where we can feel like we are at a place where we just want to land wherever. We just want water to appear wherever, even if the water is poisoned or really, really dirty. If we're in a drought, if we're in a desert, we don't care. We want that water now. So there's something about this where I feel like you guys are going to be challenged to not turn to your immediate coping mechanisms, not turn to immediate sources of relief or the first solution or the thing that appears first to help kind of settle you. I think it's ultimately about keeping strong in your boundaries, keeping strong in your vision for what you want. And with this full moon squaring Chiron in the 9th, it's going to challenge your faith. It's going to test your beliefs around if this is going to be possible for you or if this is going to manifest for you. And you guys need to hold on to your sense of like integrity or values or the essence of what you're looking for, even though things might be confusing. You don't know how they're going to take shape, and you can't be super attached to a specific shape of something or a specific form of something. Yes, that's true. And this very much ties to our last message of the Capricorn new moon, which I encourage that you watch. That is true. We need to be more attached to the essence, but there's something here around really listening to your intuition, because there are going to be points in time where your emotions are going to distort reality. They're going to lie to you. They're going to say that you really want this thing, that you're interested in this thing, that you should settle for this thing or go down this path, because it could provide you something to latch on to, some kind of solid ground. But you have to hold your line. You have to stay in integrity with exactly what is in alignment with you, with what your intuition deep inside is calling you to do. And that is going to be a much subtler, much quieter voice than the strong emotions and the riptides within us that can occur, during a full moon like this. So this is about really trusting yourself, trusting that you can see even when you can't see, that you understand through your intuitive sense, even when you can't form it into a physical sense, and that you can hold certain standards for yourself and certain values and priorities and in integrity with yourself that are in alignment, even when it feels like there's a drought in your life. Because if you are willing to do that, then you will come out on the other side with what you really desire. But it's all about this kind of test of faith and this resilience, and trying to see if you're really able to trust your intuition, even when all signs are taken away, even when all of the reasons to doubt are there, and when you're not seeing what you want and when it's not manifesting. Can you still believe? And if so, you will get what you're looking for. It might take some time. It might be until kind of March time when the eclipses start and when Mars is finally going to be retrograde at the end of February. So hold out until then, have patience, and really stay connected to your faith, because that can guide you right now. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Leo rising. If this makes sense for you, please do comment that down below. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel as well as my email list, which I always email out all my videos and extra content there if I ever make any. Basically, I'm writing up content there and giving discounts sometimes. So if you're interested in that, check that out in my description box down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, it makes you a Virgo rising and sun. This Cancer full moon happening on January 13th is taking place in your 11th house. And there's something about this full moon that I've been telling everybody. We can't really trust our feelings with it, because a Cancer full moon is very subjective, and it brings up a lot of emotions, and it can be quite biased. So there are certain things in our life where we might be confused around that area. For you, this could definitely be around your future goals as well as your relationships, with Mars being on this moon in Cancer and Mars being retrograde. There could be some stuff that comes up with people that brings up these kind of old patterns, these old things that trigger us, especially because it's also making a square to Chiron in your 8th house. There could be fears and wound and things that are communicating a message to you, like don't trust this person, or don't take this leap of faith into your future, or don't go down this path. But really those feelings are super subjective and biased and coming from a wounded place, and we cannot rely on them. Mars retrograding is showing us where we have brought up baggage and stuff from our family and our history and our past, things that we've naturally outgrown, that we are having to kind of confront one more time as before we move on into this next major phase of our life. And with the South Node now being in your sign and the North Node being in your 7th house, this is a really big time for relationship development for you over this next year and a half. And you're going to have a lot of really major changes happening. Before we do that, though, we're going to have to kind of confront old emotional baggage around past relationships or current relationships that feels unresolved. And so there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to have to kind of unravel. There can be confusing things that you believe. You could be pulled in different directions. You could be, people from the past again could come back up. There's all these things that are kind of arising, but ultimately it's our purpose right now to not just invest into old stories and old paradigms. It's important that we see and analyze this with much more clarity and have more intention around the kind of future and the kind of relationships that we really want to manifest. So it's important to listen to the signs right now, listen to your intuition, but you're really going to have the opportunity to gain wisdom through things like dreams, or like a sign through an animal, or somebody saying something in a reading like this. There's something where you guys are going to be able to pick up on messages from the universe, because we have Neptune and the North Node in Pisces in your 7th house. So the universe is guiding you towards trusting your intuition around relationships, not your emotions, your intuition. And those are going to be really different right now. Because again, I think our emotions are going to be layered in these trigger points and complicated stories and feeling a little bit confused or jaded. And we're going to get ourselves all wrapped up into a tizzy. And the purpose of this full moon is to, again, not invest in that, but to invest in the clarity and the quietness of our gut instinct and the signs that the universe is sending us that is in alignment with what our gut instinct is telling us. So listen to your intuition, listen to what these signs are saying. It's going to provide you clarity. And from that place, you can intentionally manifest the kinds of relationships that you're looking for. Is there something else I want to say here? I feel like that was really short for you guys. Let me pull one advice card since that was so short. Okay. So I pulled the Malachite card. This card is about feeling like you are different. If I'm not mistaken, the Malachite is where is the book for this? The Malachite is from space, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just make sure. Or that's that Moldavite. No, okay, never mind. Forget what I was saying. Okay, this is talking about having a lot to learn about yourself. And this stone is here to remind you to take it easy on yourself. Don't push yourself too hard or be too harsh with yourself. It's okay to be a work in progress. This is also just having the South Node in your sign. There's a lot of things you're going to become aware of around yourself that you're going to be letting go of. One of those things is your desire for control and perfection and living up to this expectation and standard that's super ruthless and hard on yourself. That is all going to be let go of this next year. You're called into a place of trust, of faith, of developing maybe more reliance on certain relationships, or becoming more aware of certain patterns in relationships, getting rid of the ones that aren't working, moving towards the ones that are healthier. And this whole process is going to take a lot of compassion with yourself, because you're going to realize your part in any unhealthy habits that you have had in relationship with yourself and others. So you're going to have to be nice to yourself about you being a work in progress. The process is never going to be complete. Parts of it become accomplishments, and then new goals will immediately arise. So don't try to be a perfect finished product. Break through old habits that don't honor yourself, starting with the idea that you need to be perfect, whole, and complete the second. You are a process. You are already all of those things because you are in process, not in spite of it. When you learn this, your whole world opens up. So it's like celebrating your journey and the process of letting these things go, and these unhealthy partners or unhealthy friends or unhealthy ways that you contribute to dynamics in your relationships, and coming into more healthy ones, but loving yourself throughout that whole journey. So that's what I see for you, Virgo. If that makes sense, I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as my email list, which I link in my description box. Give me a thumbs up and have a beautiful day. Bye. Up next, we have Libra rising and sun. This Cancer full moon happening on January 13th is taking place in your 10th house of career and life goals and expectations. So what is this full moon about? So for you guys, this full moon, well, for all of us, let's start there. This full moon is about how we have inherited something that is from maybe a past experience, or from family, or from maybe even, in your case, societal expectations around certain things like timelines, or what is expected of us at certain ages of our life, and certain goals we should or shouldn't have. And the Mars retrograde on this moon opposing Pluto is asking you to break free and push back on some of those boundaries. This could be triggering for you with this moon squaring Chiron in your seventh. There could be people in your life or online or in your sphere that have an influence on you that could reinforce these societal expectations or these standards or this kind of box that we live in, or these set rules of doing things, or, you know, again, some kind of timeline or how you should go about things, or what you should want, or what phase of life you should be in, or what kind of achievements you should have. And this full moon could really illustrate how there are certain ways that we're never going to live up to those standards. And we could feel in some ways kind of dejected by how we don't meet certain expectations of our own, as well as society at this full moon. It could bring up deep wells of emotion around that. But this full moon ultimately is trying to help us break free from something that we've clearly outgrown. There's some kind of emotional pattern, some kind of dependency. And I think that this is in many ways dependency on a certain level of security that is derived from falling in line with the expectations of the world, or from our parents, or from our loved ones, or whatever that looks like. There is some kind of standard that I feel like you're holding yourself to, or some kind of goal that you're trying to accomplish that, or that you have been trying to do, that I feel like you're going to be questioning a little bit now. And you could be questioning a external influence with you on those certain goals. And I feel like ultimately this full moon is about coming into alignment with the self. There's something that I feel like that you could want to do that's a little bit more radical right now. And you might be feeling again a little bit more of those pressures of society, of the limitations of certain aspects of life, because your planetary ruler, Venus, is conjunct Saturn, which is the planet of kind of the tradition and government and those expectations and rules. That's what Saturn is all about. So you could be feeling that pressure right now. And this full moon could bring it all to light. And you could decide that you want to rebel against that, or that there are certain elements that you don't identify with. So there's something here about becoming more of a free spirit. This could be letting go of, you know, certain timelines that you've had for your life, or again, certain expectations you've put on yourself that could be inherited again from society or from the world or from authority figures, where other people think things should be a certain way. And you might not even realize that you have incorporated that into your dreaming, into your visioning, because it could be so standard that you don't recognize the infiltration of that into your system. It could just be an overlay that's already a part of what you're thinking about. And it's an important time to question that, to question if there is just a need to like let something go, like let people go, or let a perspective go, or a goal go, or a timeline go, so that you can feel freer. Even if you still stay on the same path, like maybe, let's say, for example, you're wanting to be a mother, and there are certain expectations around when that happens, or what should happen first, or what you should have before you become a mother, and people start kind of chiming in and giving their opinions, and society has their opinions. Maybe you still want to be a mother after all of this, but you realize that there are certain ways of going about it, or certain timelines or goals around that don't actually feel authentic to you, or that feel really limiting to you, or feel really stressful for you. And it's a lot more free to just do it in a different type of way, or have a different outlook on it. So that's what I'm seeing for you guys, is kind of inhabiting more of this free spirit, thinking outside of the box, thinking in your most authentic way, and releasing any kind of emotional baggage that comes from the perspectives of others that have influenced you and maybe made you feel even negative about where you are, because maybe that's not even what you want, or what you're comparing yourself to, or what you should be comparing yourself to. So I hope that makes sense for you guys. Basically, you're being asked to move to the beat of your own drum right now and redefine what success means for you in all fashions. The way that you achieve the success, what it will look like when you have the outcome, how it will feel, the timeline of it, all of that. is what you need to kind of look back on and redefine for yourself right now. So that's what I'm seeing for you, my Libras. If that resonates with you, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Please also subscribe to my YouTube channel and my email list. I will link that in my description box. My email list is where I send everything important to, including discounts if I ever offer them. So definitely check that out. Don't forget to also give me a thumbs up and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, I'm next to a Scorpio rising and sun. This Cancer full moon on January 13th is taking place in your ninth house, conjunct Mars retrograde. Mars is your traditional planetary ruler. So to have it on this moon and to have it move retrograde is very personal and significant to you. It represents a time of deeper self-reflection. Though I feel like with this being in the ninth house, this is an overall positive full moon for you, even though there is a bit of tension going on because we do have Mars in an opposition with Pluto, which is your modern ruler. Your traditional versus your modern ruler is kind of funny. But I feel like the ultimate purpose of this is to help you see your power of resourcefulness, of resilience, and your power of transformation. One of the things that the ninth house is about envisioning our life. We're moving into a new year. I mean, we're already in the new year. And we're able to kind of picture more or less what we want for ourselves in the time ahead. With this being a Cancer full moon, there is likely going to be elements of our past that kind of creeps up right now, especially when it comes to past limitations. So as we start envisioning kind of what we want, that's when the fears creep up. That's when the doubts creep up. That's when we start to feel like, I don't know because of X, Y, and Z. And this is a time where you're meant to be combating this because with Mars retrograding in the sign of Cancer, there is something old about this energy. There's something about this that's inherited that has been, that you have been circling in your brain that comes from maybe family and previous generations, that comes from previous emotional experiences. It's just this old emotional baggage that we can naturally kind of bring with us into the future. With this full moon being in your ninth house, it's asking you to have real faith and belief in yourself and to not let the distortion of old emotions get in the way and impact your ability to create the life that you desire, to envision the life that you desire. This full moon is squaring Chiron in your sixth house. The sixth house is very much related to feelings of inadequacy. The sixth house traditionally has to do with slavery. What is the most prominent thing about slavery is that there is a power imbalance happening. One person has everything, the other person has nothing. So there's something here about realizing that you have a say. You can create this for yourself. You can make this happen. There is a sense of needing to, I guess see your own power in the manifestation of something. And trust yourself, trust your own instincts on how to create this in the physical form. This could involve, to some degree, a little bit of a leap of faith or some kind of fresh start or something that feels like a new beginning for you. And in order to do this, and I don't recommend that you begin it now necessarily because Mars is retrograde till really almost the end of February. So I would wait until then to have a new beginning like that. But there's something that I feel like you're very emotionally excited about that you are invested in. But I think there's also part of you that could have, again, some fears or doubts come up around having some kind of blank slate or breaking new ground, moving into new territory for yourself. And it might involve you having to, I guess, like realize your own, again, power and leadership in something. With this square to Chiron the 6th, I think a lot of this is getting out of your own way, getting out of your own head, realizing that you are not in a place of disempowerment. Where you don't have to answer to somebody, where you don't have to, I don't know how to put this. Like, you have the say in how it's created. You have the say in how the outcome is. It's not up to somebody else to be in control of your life and what it looks like. And so this is very empowering to feel like, yes, I'm the one molding this. I'm the one making this, and I'm the one believing in this, and I know my next steps. And because of that, I'm able to create from a blank canvas. Other people, when a canvas is blank in our lives, will start projecting what they think is going to go in there, or their own fears, and they'll start painting on your canvas for you. And it's your necessity right now to make sure that outside perspectives don't overcrowd your own, and that you're able to truly take that blank slate and make it what you want it to be. So this is a time of, again, faith and resilience, and being the person that is like the creator and the visionary of your own life, and realizing that you have full control and capability, and that old emotional stories, old emotional baggage, or other people's ideas or influences around that vision don't really matter. It's only yours that truly matter right now. So this is a time where I feel like a lot is possible for you. And I think that this actually is a quite auspicious full moon, because it's going to help you realize where there's where you're actually very good at transforming things from a void or from that blank canvas, and making it into art, and realizing how empowering that is, that you can create something out of nothing. And I think that you guys are going to really see how capable you are as a result of this full moon, and check back in another 6 months to see the Cancer new moon in order to be able to determine how that's gone for you. So that is what I'm saying for you, Scorpio. If that resonates, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel and email list, which I link in my description box down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Sagittarius rising and sun. This Cancer full moon on January 13th is taking place in your 8th house, and it's conjunct Mars retrograde. So this full moon is all about the past, because it's, first of all, in your 8th house, which is often linked with the past, but it's also with Mars retrograde, which is, of course, a planet looking to the past because it's moving backwards in the sky. Because this is taking place in Cancer, there is some kind of tie or emotional dependency to something in our life that we're needing to cut our ties from. This could be linked with something all the way back to our family life, like our childhood, but it doesn't have to be that far back. It could be just something that we have kind of ingrained in our nature, or even from a past emotional experience. Whatever this is, there's something in your life that I feel like you guys want. With Jupiter being in your 7th house, this could represent something relationally that you're wanting. Maybe you're wanting, a really amazing partner, a really peaceful life. Maybe you're wanting a family. We do have the North Node and Neptune in your 4th house. There's a lot of emphasis on family right now. Maybe you're wanting to, have a really good home life, like really enjoying where you live. Regardless of what it is, there's something in your life that you want right now, but you're going to need to make some kind of sacrifice in order to get that. Whatever the sacrifice is, I feel like it is kind of pointing towards being overly busy, because your planetary ruler, Jupiter, is in Gemini. So it definitely represents how we have our hands in many different buckets. Is that the word? And with this full moon in Cancer, there can be an emotional addiction and attachment to feeling very stimulated, to feeling busy, to feeling like you're always moving forward. Sagittarius loves that energy. It loves to make progress, right? It wants to have a lot of different, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's as much about spreading yourself so thin. That's more of a Gemini thing. But Sagittarius it doesn't necessarily always want to look in the past. It wants to keep progressing, keep kind of breaking new ground. And so there's something about this where I feel like always being on the move, or always being busy, or having a lot to do, or having a lot that you're thinking about is actually, and you maybe even having too many options for something in your life, too many distractions, too much mental stimulation, whatever that looks like for you. It's going to be different for everybody. It's important to realize that there's going to be some kind of attachment to that, some kind of dependency to that, that you're going to have to cut yourself off from. This could bring up certain fears with this being in the eighth house, because this busyness, this movement, this stimulation could be a coping mechanism to not have to feel or face certain emotions in our life. With Mars retrograde opposite Pluto, we're revealing all of the baggage, all of the shadows, all of the fears, and we're having to face them head on without this kind of emotional numbing band-aid of those coping mechanisms that have kept us busy and distracted. So the purpose of this is to create ultimate peace, because there's something that you've been doing that has been out of moderation. You have been doing it excessively, or you've been overly spread thin, or you've been, again, overly stimulated. Whatever this is, there's been too much of something in your life, and you will know what this is. And maybe you've even had the thought of, I should probably cut down on this, or this is affecting me in this way. And it's time to kind of get rid of that addiction, to get rid of that coping mechanism, because I feel like you guys are going to be moving into a state of greater peace and things flowing a lot better in your life. But they can't flow if they're very frenetic, if the energy is going everywhere, if your mind is going everywhere. And your emotions as well, with this being Cancer, are disrupted by this coping mechanism. So you're meant to come into a state of peace. An example of this could be, somebody who wants a family and they're working way too much and they're spreading themselves too thin and they're stressed out, and they have maybe social engagements, and then they're traveling and they have a lot going on at work, and then they're maybe doing a side gig. It's like, you're not going to get pregnant, or you're not going to have a peaceful family life if you're very stressed from those things. So whatever this is, that's just an example. Whatever this is, pull back from it. Learn to pare down, learn to detach emotionally from whatever this is, face your emotions head on, find an inner peace from having just spaciousness in your life and the ability to go inward and reflect more. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Sagittarius. If this resonates, or if you want to leave a comment, I would love to hear from you down below. Don't forget to also give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as my email list, which I link in my description box. That's the only place I will offer discounts if I have any. And I also send all my videos there. So make sure you definitely subscribe. And I hope that you guys have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, I'm going to say of Capricorn rising and sun, this Cancer full moon happening on January 13th is taking place in your 7th house of relationships. It is conjunct Mars retrograde. So there's something super important here that's bringing up something from the past. And if you watch the overview, you know that this is either directly tied from a past experience, from family, just whatever. There is some kind of an emotional response to something, and like even a jadedness to something. We're carrying those emotions forward with us now as Mars is retrograding near this full moon. And it's asking us to realize how those emotions have tainted us and have made it us, again, maybe like a little bit like seeing certain things through a filter. For you, this is really coming up in your relationships. You have grown and learned a lot about relationships from the people in your life and from difficult experiences. You've seen it all. You've seen all the phases of life. And this full moon is trying to show you how that wisdom can help you grow within relationships. It can help you choose the right people. It can help you move on into this next phase of life. And you might even meet an important person during this time. But it doesn't really matter if you're meeting someone or you're not. What's coming up here is that there's something in your life in regards to relationships that I feel like you guys are going to be encountering some of that past energy and having to work through some of the bitterness or some of the resentment or some of the jaded feelings or the kind of limiting beliefs that come up, or just like the negative side of the wisdom that comes from past experiences. Wisdom isn't always just pure wisdom. Sometimes it has a little bit of its own baggage with it. And so this full moon is going to kind of potentially bring that up around other people in your life, and realize that you've outgrown it. Realize that you've outgrown maybe some of these like old ways of relating to people, or these old types of feelings. And you're like, okay, I'm done with that. I'm ready to move on into a next phase of relationships. And so you might have to confront those feelings, but you might also be able to overcome them at this time. So it's around getting unstuck where you felt like you were kind of trapped into certain patterns or emotions in the past with people. You're getting unstuck from that. You're outgrowing it. You're evolving from it. I also feel like, there's another message here because your planetary ruler, Saturn, is in Pisces. Of course, it's been there for a while, but it's also conjunct Venus and it's relatively close to Neptune as well. There's a very heavy emphasis here on coming into your kind of like creative, divine, imaginative, mysterious type of energy where you are opening up to potentials again. And I think sometimes when we have a lot of wisdom and a lot of experiences and sometimes jadedness around certain people and things in our life, sometimes we can struggle to have fresh starts and we can feel we're carrying all that wisdom with us and it weighs us down a little bit. It makes our journey a little bit slower or it inhibits it somehow. And I feel like part of having Venus with Saturn right now and Neptune again on the North Node and so close to your Saturn, it's like, how can we learn to really trust again? How can we learn to be light in our step and return to this like pureness and innocence with the wisdom that we have? So we're not weighed down by it, but we're uplifted by it, by knowing that we are protected because we know that we have discernment in the decisions that we make. So there's something here about being able to move maybe more quickly and more sure-footed, but also light-footed towards a new type of way of believing in yourself, believing in the way that you show up in relationships, because you are kind of having some pureness and some emotional reset along with the wisdom from the past. I hope that makes sense, but I feel like there's a potential for some kind of new relationship to come in or for a new way of relating to come in and for you guys to have this beautiful, fresh kind of start. And it can come from both a pure and innocent place as well as a wise place that has learned from difficult experiences. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Capricorn. I hope that this is a good one for you. If this resonates, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to also like my video and subscribe to my channel as well as my email list, which I will link in my description box down below. Bye. All right, next I have Aquarius rising and sun. This Cancer full moon is happening on January 13th in your 6th house of work, health, and daily routines. And this full moon is conjunct Mars, which is also retrograde in Cancer. So there's something about this full moon that's bringing up a tie or an attachment or dependency to something that is likely inherited from other people, from our family, even potentially from past emotional experiences. It's almost like we kind of accumulate these walls or these masks or these patterns and these emotional reactions to things, and they stay with us as a result of the experiences we have. And this is a point in time where we are meant to be releasing that baggage and realizing that we have outgrown it. So there's something here with this full moon being in your 6th house where you might play down your potential in some way. You might be, I just feel like there's something here where you guys have a little bit more of a potential to shine, especially with Jupiter being in your 5th house. And it could bring up a lot like, okay, the 6th house is where we are often subservient, where we are working for somebody or in an institution under somebody else. So on a very practical level, some of you guys could have some kind of endings in your job or transformations in your job where you're letting go of something in order to up level. But another way of looking at this is some kind of way that we might play small and we might hide behind certain roles or responsibilities or being really busy where we could feel like we are safer there. We are safer in the group, I guess, in a way, and not having like being faceless, right? Like hiding behind something. And I feel like part of this full moon is trying to help you reveal how you could have kind of fallen in line with certain things in your life because of maybe a job expectations or social expectations or what your parents wanted of you or whatever that was, and how falling in line with this role in this job or whatever it is has in many ways disempowered you or taken away some of your kind of authentic, yeah, your authentic experience. I don't know. I feel like there's just something here about becoming more genuine, becoming more aware of who you actually are, unveiling different aspects of the self, and empowering yourself to maybe take up more space or to say no, to not fall in line with certain things that maybe you've kind of traditionally done because that has been your emotional programming. Oh, I have to be safe. I have to do X, Y, and Z, to not rock the boat. And that's what's been taught to me by my family. That's what's always been done. So I do that. And then this full moon comes and it's like, well, I don't want to do that right now. Maybe I want to stand up for myself. Maybe I want to, again, not just blend into the crowd. Maybe I want to take up space or show that I have more capabilities or be more of a leader in certain respects. So there's just something here around kind of ending a phase of being, yeah, almost like, yeah, being faceless or being diffuse or not. Maybe this even comes from like, oh, I'm not so sure what I want. This kind of phase of like this subservient energy of like, well, maybe I don't really know what I want, or what do you think? And I don't know, there's just something about this where it's like, I feel that you guys are meant to be speaking up for yourself and empowering yourself. And with this square to Chiron in the third house, that could be somewhat triggering to finally like find your voice with something and take a stand with something, or gain clarity with something and be direct and lead something. There's just something here where it's like, okay, I'm not gonna waffle. I'm not going to fall into the crowd or say I don't know, or be afraid to take up space. It's like, I'm going to be clear. I'm going to be direct. I'm going to take leadership. I'm going to take up space. I'm going to say no. Those are the kinds of things that I feel like you are transitioning into. And I feel like you have been kind of, there's some potency there. There's some potency there that I feel like you have not always tapped into at certain times in certain scenarios and situations in your life. Again, it could be socially, it could be at work, it could be with your partner. There's some area in your life where you can gather more of that kind of masculine drive and that potency and that that willingness to almost like to believe in yourself more, or to believe in what you want, or express what you actually think about something. There's just something there that I feel like you guys are going to become, again, clear around, firmer around, more potent around. And it first involves letting go of the dependency to kind of fall in line, or to mix into the crowd, or to not stir feathers, ruffle feathers, stir the pot. So it's like we first have to overcome that with this Mars retrograde and let go of any kind of emotional attachment to wearing a mask, like a social mask or whatever, and making other people comfortable. It's like, how do we let that go, that attachment to that mask go, and expose who we really are and what we really think about something? So that's what I see for you, my beautiful Aquarius. If this resonates, I would love to know in the comments down below. Please also don't forget to give me a like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and my email list, which I will link in my description box down below. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye. All right, and last but not least, we have Pisces rising and sun. This Cancer full moon that's happening on January 13th is taking place in your 5th house, conjunct Mars retrograde. So Mars retrograde is bringing up some kind of attachment to a kind of past emotional coping mechanism, or just something that we have been maybe given or passed down through our family that we've inherited, something that we've been maybe dependent on, or some kind of story that we've been totally wrapped up in and enthralled with. There's something about that is becoming old at this time. So maybe there was, a belief that, you're shining your light too bright with this being in your 5th house, and your family would tell you to not, do those mystical spiritual things, and you're being weird. And I mean, this is just an example. And then you kind of inherit these schemas for how you're viewing the world. And you're like, oh, that's too weird. I can't say that. I can't do that. That's a little bit out of line. And this full moon conjunct Mars and also Mars opposite Pluto is about purging that, releasing the baggage to the and the attachment to the stories that we can often tell ourselves and the emotions that can come up that are inherited from other people that are not really authentic to us, that makes us dim our light or disconnects us from our creative spirit or our like the things that really inspire us, the things that really excite us. There's something here with this full moon being in the 5th house that's meant to be healing for you to go on some kind of adventure and try something new that you haven't tried before. But I feel like you guys have maybe had some intimidation around it. Or if you've been on that path, there could have been some things that come up along the way that feels like that could have made you doubt yourself or got in your own head and in your own way around how worthy you are and if you could make money from this or if this is something that people really care about or if you're confident enough. There's all these kinds of things that can come up, and it could feel like there's this part of you that with this full moon squaring Chiron the second, there's this part of you that might be practical and a desire for security and stability and what is known, but there's something that you're called to do anyway that is going to push the bounds of your comfort zone. It's going to ask you to leave that sense of stability and move into creating something or going after something that you actually really want and that you're really excited about, that feels maybe new and adventurous and maybe even like dangerous because of these past emotions and beliefs and perceptions that have been thrust upon us around what things should look like or how things should be to other people. And I feel like you guys might be coming out of a phase of, what is known in many ways. I feel like there's something here where you might have like a traditional way of doing things. Like you maybe have a specific routine, or you have like your work that you show up to consistently every day. And there's something about this where I feel like you're kind of being asked to go into more of a state of flow and creative inspiration and not be as connected to the form and the structure and the consistency that you are used to, if there is something like that in your life, especially because your modern ruler Neptune is on the North Node, all in Pisces. The North Node just moved into your sign. This is a time for you guys to be creative, for you to be trusting yourself, for you to be taking leaps of faith based off of your inspiration, for you to be spiritually, intuitively guided. This is your time to shine in the next year and a half and to make these major developments, these major developmental milestones that you wanted to hit previously. This is your year and a half to finally embark on them, especially in March and September when we have eclipses in your sign. So it's going to be really important for you guys to trust yourself, to trust your sense of flow, your sense of abundance, and not get super attached to the form of things or the expectations of others or the criticisms of others, because things are going to start turning in your favor. So this is our first step really with this full moon, to release the baggage of the emotions that can come up when we get triggered, when other people tell us or influence us in certain ways that feel negative, that make us doubt our path and doubt ourselves. So this full moon is trying to get you uninhibited, unencumbered, if that's a word, and kind of set you on your path and realize that things are going to be prosperous. They will take time, they will take faith, they will take trust, but you first have to start them and go on this adventure now. So have conviction right now, have the strength to do this. You guys totally got this. I believe in you. And I can't wait to see what you create. Please comment down below what it is that you think you're going to be starting in 2025. And also don't forget to give me a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to my channel and to my email list, which I link in my description box down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.